So this goes along with the other video where I have this headband on. So the underground reptiles became very, very advanced. All right. And they ended up, they were very, very peaceful. They were very, very nice. But then something ended up getting into everything. It was very spiritual. I don't know what to call it. Something dark, something evil got into them. It was a dark black substance entity, kind of like oil, kind of like goop or guck. I don't know what that is, but it got into them, and it got into their DNA, and it ended up turning them very mean, very, very prideful, selfish, cynical, very dark, very nasty. And it also caused them to be not just selfish, but downright greedy. And it caused them to not want to live in peace with each other, mainly because, all of us monkeys, even though we may have been updated in our DNA, we were not updated. We were not that intelligent still. So, but this is also why you'll never see, you'll never, you know they've been lying about so many things. I wouldn't put it past them to lie about actually finding the missing link, but if they're actually going to be honest at all, they will never find the missing link. There is no missing link, because a company and a business person who actually paid for this planet to get fixed up, and who paid for us human beings to be created, um and I don't know who the hell would do that, since there were already, it's like they didn't even check out to see if anything else was here. But yeah, they're the ones that actually had us created, which is why there is no missing link. But, now that I put this video out, of course they're going to lie and say that we found the missing link and try to get everybody convinced of that. So the creationism is true, but it's by extraterrestrials. It is in evolution. It's a pile of shit. It doesn't work. It doesn't really work at all. You literally have to have the intelligence to take that DNA and augment it yourself. And you also have to have the equipment too. You have to have the intelligence to create the equipment, and then have the equipment work correctly, and fix the equipment if it screws up. And speaking of that, what these underground reptiles ended up doing is that they ended up taking, I don't know why, but they were messing with everything. They see themselves, even to this day, as owning and controlling the earth. They call the earth Terra. That's where you get the word terrestrials, extraterrestrials. It's basing it off of the Vrills, the underground reptiles language. Otherwise it would be called extra earth or extra earthlings, our human language, at least in English, but instead it's called Terra. Where did the term Terra even come from? And you can say it's Latin. It's not. It's not. By the way, how come we're supposed to speak everything in Latin for these ancient rituals? Is it because that's the language that at least allows the reptiles to understand us to some degree? Because they don't care to learn or understand whatever surface languages exist. They do have technology that is like way better than Google Translate, but when it comes to them personally learning the language, they're not about to waste their time doing that. What's the point when you have technology to do it for you? What's the point of learning how to write or do handwriting, how to spell or do handwriting, when you have all these technologies to do it for you? I mean, literally, us human beings are going to get to the point where we're going to download information into our brains, and that is the Neuralink that Elon Musk is fighting for right now. Literally, that will happen. So, but they're only going to allow the rich, the rich to do it, not the poor. So, man, there's just so much. My Asperger's brain is just going everywhere. It's like, what to include next? Either way, to sum it up, these underground reptiles, who are exceedingly advanced compared to human beings and have been exceedingly advanced, they have been messing with human beings. At some point in time they started mixing, and this is why there are people who have problems of all kinds. They started taking us monkeys, and they were like, well, if they can do that, if these other beings can do that, then we're going to take monkeys too, and we're going to augment them too. So they started augmenting them, and they started mixing them with their own DNA. That's why there's races of people who can, you know, who are more prone to like not growing body hair. That means that your DNA has been mixed with their DNA. There are people who are, you know, they mixed DNA with wolf DNA. They mixed DNA with horses. They mix DNA with pigs. Literally, that's why some people have weight issues that they can't get over. They mix DNA. They mixed it literally with bulls and with like buffalo type creatures. Those things didn't really exist, but they mixed DNA with absolutely everything. And it was because, you know, they were hunting us. They saw us as food. And even to this day, we are still seen as food, as chickens, you know, which is kind of odd because they always say that they conquered us, but it's like us human beings say that we conquered the chickens. It's like, seriously? You're saying that you conquered your food, that you were like genetically built to eat. What? You know? So, and for whatever reason, I don't know why they don't want to admit that they were mixing all of this DNA. Maybe there's some legal stuff against it, which is absolutely ridiculous because you're creating more life and more varied life, and hopefully life that can sustain itself through who knows what kind of stuff, you know, which I think is the whole point. But all of these legalities aside, what ended up finally happening is that I don't know why or where these reptiles always kind of saw us human beings as enemies. They saw themselves as owning the earth, and they still see us as enemies. They still see us as something to conquer. So if they still hold that prejudiced, ancient, stupid belief system, then, you know, I don't think there's any hope for them. But so at some point, I do know during the Industrial Revolution, we were making so much noise on the surface of the earth that it upset them because they got very, very, their ears are very sharp and they like the darkness because, you know, living in the center of the earth, they created light for themselves and everything, but they still like cool darkness, you know, the reptilian, you know, and they have to have their environment, you know, controlled and everything. And they're able to do that, but we were making so much noise it disturbed them a lot. So they came up to the surface basically in hordes to find out what the hell we were doing and to try to stop us. And that is when they just decided in mass to start taking over our societies. Now, they had already taken over our societies during the eras of kings and, you know, emperors and whatnot. But I guess their ambassadors that they sent up here to actually rule us and control us wasn't enough, because something happened to allow us human beings to jump forward. And what happened is that one of their literally hypnotizing brainwashing towers was taken out. It was in a mountain, and one of these extraterrestrials, a totally different race of extraterrestrials, some other entities entirely, they ended up coming along this earth, and some of their beings were literally captured and enslaved down here and turned into humans against their will, just like the rest of us. And they ended up trying to save their comrades, and it didn't work at all. And one of them managed to escape and ended up coming and blowing up one of these hypnotism towers that the reptiles had created to try to control us humans and keep us from evolving past a certain point, because they wanted their food and we're their food. And don't let the chickens hatch. Don't let them get out of, you know, don't let them get out of the coop. We're busy eating them, you know. And so it was about the time of the Industrial Revolution that the reptiles decided, okay, we have to take over the surface of the earth because this is getting too much. We actually have to start living for real on the surface of the earth. And so that is what they started doing. This is a huge sum up, but there you go. 10-minute mark, I gotta go.